What's up, team, and welcome to another episode here at Trail Melissa. So today I've had plenty of questions online when the Broncos are out. You know, what are the modifications? What have you done to this? What have you done to that? How do you feel about the 2-door? How do you feel about the 4-door? What does the 4-door have? Usually Oscar's out here wheeling with me. Oscar's back there somewhere. We're gonna break down both of the Broncos. He's gonna talk about his mods, everything he's done, how he feels about the 4-door, and then I'll go through, talk about my feelings about the 2-door and the 4-door and what I've done to ours. And then obviously you guys have seen it wheeled now. If you haven't, go check out some of the previous episodes and then you can see how it does. We keep going through changes because it is a new platform, so we test things out, see if they break, and then, you know, go back to the drawing board. But today you guys will get a breakdown of where we're at. I'm about 9,000 miles. How many miles do you have? He's at 12K, so he's got a little bit more than me. And then but yeah, we're gonna find out what he has, what I have, and then you guys can ask us any other questions you want in the comments, all that. And we're gonna get started. Give us a second. We're gonna set up some cameras and then we're gonna get going. All right, team, so we're gonna dive right in. Oscar's right behind me. We're gonna get started.
Hey, what's up? It's Oscar, and this is my 2021 base Sasquash Bronco, and we're gonna break it down, the good, the bad, and everything I've done to it.
And the ugly, bro.
It's not ugly, dude. That's you. That's just you.
All right, let's talk about the stuff that you actually made yourself, though.
All right, so
let's talk in the front.
To begin with, we're gonna start with the front bumper. I wanted a nice, short Baja style bumper with the winch tucked in back. Most of the stuff out there is big, bulky, which I'm not a big fan of. We put a 12,000 pound super winch in there.
Shout out to
Dave, sticker Dave. Might as well just put Dave right here.
Shout out to Dave from Super Winch.
There's a tramp stamp in the back.
He takes care of a lot of us. But yeah, the reason he did that too is, like he said, we were at SEMA. We went to a lot of places where there's a lot of Broncos, and a lot of those bumpers do stick out like a whole nother, like
at least a foot.
Another foot, yeah. And it looks weird, honestly.
Kills your angle.
Kills your angle. You want to have it nice and clean and tucked in, because if you notice that, like compared to like the front stock Badlands bumper, it's nice and tucked in. So he kept that look, and it looks really sharp. What you make it out of?
This is all 3/16 mild steel and DOM tubes on the side just to keep it, you know, strong.
Right on. And then you made your sliders too, right?
Sliders and also the skid plates.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the skid plates.
The skid plates are still being worked on. Just put this one on it. I'm working on this. I cut this off. I'm trying to protect this because, as you can see, this already bent. They're very exposed, so I'm just trying to find a way to protect them. You know, but I gotta make it easy, simple, bolt on.
Talk about the most important mod, dude. The most important mod.
Oh man, this will save your lifetime. A little flag or light mount.
So he does have these for sale too. So hit us up. You could DM me or DM him.
Yep.
And we'll get you guys one.
You know,
it's a flag mount. So if you guys go to parks, you have to have a flag on your truck. And if you have a Bronco, this is a perfect spot to put it.
I got 3 flag mounts on this, so I'll show you all the different ones.
He's got 3 of them. But
so then we also have my sliders. These are DOM 1 3/4 tube, frame mounted. Everything out there right now is body mounted, which I was not what I was looking for. These are all, if you look down here, they're actually all frame mounted. And
all right, so you saw they're frame mounted sliders, and now we're gonna go to the rear.
Forget these. We also have these here. I've had a couple people ask me how can you mount a tent up here. Kind of a rack. It's kind of weird, but that's all you can do right now. With a soft top, you cannot put a rack up there. There's one, but you know, it's ugly. I kept it simple, put stuff up there, and
so a couple tubes,
but you got to be committed to that.
Yeah, you have to be committed. The top has to be down.
It's kind of a weird, yeah.
And but he has the tubes. He can make them for you if you need them. And then as the rear, he did some modifications for the rear too. All right, let's talk. Dude, look at you. Put the lights on it.
Yeah, this guy here, you could mount 2 lights, mount a whip.
Hey, does it touch or no?
I purposely made it so it touches a bit, so it's not slapping.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have a little bit of pressure. What's going on over here? Sold a few of these actually, and they're using them for LED whips because you can hide the light through the back. Oh yeah. And it's just strong. This guy here, there's a couple out there to reinforce for the tailgate. They're not working. I'll be the first to tell you that. You know, as you can see, my tailgate's bent with the brace on. So
this is a 37 and it is heavy.
Yeah. So if you're buying them thinking it's gonna protect your gate, they're not.
Yeah, just do what I did. Just take it
I
off.
will not offer this yet.
Take it off. Yeah,
nobody should be offering it.
I had a 37 on mine, and I have a slight bent on it too, but I didn't have a reinforcement on it. It just had the regular base thing. I know that Bronco sells you like a reinforcement thing, but I think the same thing will happen if you wheel hard.
Yeah.
And you have a 37, that's gonna happen regardless. So I wouldn't even spend the money. Just take your 37 off, get a plaque or delete, and then just, you know, make sure that you have your spare somewhere near or somewhere you can get to it quick. All right, so you saw some of the main parts that he did for the body. We're gonna dive into the suspension now. He can talk about what he's put on there. He also has a couple parts that he made for the suspension himself. We're gonna let him talk about it. All right, let's go. Let's dive into the suspension.
All right, so down here, so the first, the eyesore, the Kings, they were a great add-on. They give you 2 to 4 inches of lift, about 2 inches more of travel as well. So along with the Kings, you got to get upper arms. So I got the Camberg upper control arms. They worked out very good. You know, they articulate well, they're quiet, they're not making all kinds of noises. Like usually when you go high and stuff, everything gets loud. This thing's it's got great road manners. I also have my sway bar disconnect. If you're wheeling, you want to get the full articulation, you need them. You know, it lets the suspension fully cycle, and just it's a way better experience. You see a lot of these lifting up a lot of tire when they're crawling. They have a full-on sway bar, and well, it hurts you.
Yeah.
Anybody wheeling, take them off.
Yeah, so mine does have a sway bar disconnect, but from some of the science, bro science, or whatever you want to call it, we haven't really tested it yet. But words are that even with my sway bar disconnect, it doesn't droop all the way. So we will be testing that with some sway bar links. We're just going to disconnect it and see what happens, see if it droops even more lower. Now that our setups are pretty similar in height, we'll be able to test that out. So this sway bar link is more based for people that do not have the automatic sway bar link disconnect, but they might benefit both of us. We will be throwing some on the Badlands also, but like you said, he's got the Kings. But yeah, these were made by King specifically for the Bronco, and then obviously Camberg has two different sets of arms. These are the regular tube ones, and they also have billet ones. Yeah, but yeah, there it is.
We need tie rods, bro.
I know, we do need tie rods. All right, so that breaks down that front suspension. We're gonna break down the rear real quick. Yeah, I mean, this is where all the goods are.
All right, we're gonna move on to the rear. So back here we do have these rock jock arms. They're fully adjustable. It's lowers and uppers. They're great, especially with 37s. I serve a lot on the front. I managed to move my tire about a 1/4 inch back, which is all I needed. And yeah, I cured my rubbing problems. We also back here, we have the Kings as well. They do have DSC adjusters, so it lets you really fine tune your ride for on-road, off-road, crawling, whatever you're doing. And of course, I made these. These are to protect the shocks. I don't know if you can see them there. They're completely rock rashed. Get them. They're really inexpensive. You don't gotta get mine, but prefer if you get mine, just get them.
Now we're gonna dive into some of what the Bronco is either not liked for or we didn't like ourselves. We'll break down the 4-door, all the dislikes in Oscar's perspective. All right, so now we're gonna dive into the ugly.
All right, so one that's actually gone now is the fenders. The Sasquatch fenders were huge, kind of flat. Have you seen them? They look weird. These, I took them off and got some non-Sasquatch fenders. They look better. They match the body lines better. The tires stick out more. That's aesthetics. It just looks better. This is a base Sasquatch. Sasquatch package should have came with skid plates. If you look at mine, I have the skid plate that I made. I put a big old hole in my gas tank, which was not fun, middle of a trail. For being a Sasquatch and market as an off-road vehicle, comes on 35s, lockers, it should have been protected, and it's not. Sasquatch package should have had that. We'll come on to the tailgate. We broke it down a bit on that. I mean, it's a big, heavy tire, and they made it aluminum. There's not really any reinforcement. There's the 4th tailgate I've seen with the bracket actually bend. So if you're looking for the brackets, the tailgate should have been a little better. If you see the Fun Haver one, they actually redesigned this whole bracket. That's definitely gonna hold up, and it should have been on Bronco to begin with.
And just to dive into that a little bit more, we actually took apart like my door to kind of see what the door was made out of, and it's really, really thin, so there's not really much holding it there. So even I think, even with the 35, if you were to wheel really hard, I think you're gonna bend it regardless. So it's not just a 37 problem, I think it's even a 35 problem. If you have the proper offset, the little tabs that they put on the door will not touch, and it will bend your door.
Yeah, you can actually hear my tailgate how much weight it has. When you close it, the striker is not aligned anymore. You could hear that bump.
True. Yeah, because it drops.
I've kicked that up. I've actually given it more gap. You can see it rubs when you're hard wheeling.
Yeah,
you can see my paint.
Mine's rubbed underneath too.
Yeah, so it just flexes a lot. If you, like George said, if you're wheeling, just take off that tire.
Yeah.
I've learned that now. Back up to the top. Yeah.
You
put your soft top down. I've strapped it, done everything you can. It will scratch. They change it. They put some felts in here and some of the newer models and stuff. But if you have any of these trucks, just don't put your top down when you're wheeling. It will scratch and it looks horrible. And also the threading, top's down and all, but the threading is getting horrible. Ford is gonna fix mine, but I've seen a few tops that's happening to them, so just keep an eye for it.
Yeah, and that's kind of something that since the trucks have been released, even on the hard tops, it's always been like a top issue. I don't know why they pushed them to be released so soon without them checking it, but even the rag tops have issues on them. They're not made to top quality like they should have been released, but the good thing is a lot of them are being replaced by Ford. You just have to go through the headache of going back to the dealership, grabbing it, leaving it there for the day, and then they replace it and whatnot. Anything else?
Sounds.
Yeah,
the sounds on this thing. This one came with the very base cheapo speakers, but even the high-end first edition with the BO audio, it has a subwoofer, they just sound horrible. I've upgraded my speakers, put a sub, and it just still doesn't sound good. Just the way the vehicle's built just doesn't sound good.
And again, I'll do another little slight breakdown to that. Adding to the sound, if you sit in the JL Rubicon or JT Rubicon, my Rubicon has the bass audio sound, and it sounds amazing. Like it sounds way better, and it shouldn't, because it's the same like kind of the same systematic setup. You're gonna take the top off, you're gonna take the doors off, speakers should be better. Like the sound just sounds so much better in the JT, and it's a base model. Like there's nothing special. I didn't get the upgraded version. It just got the bigger screen, but the speakers are still stock, and the Bronco sounds like shit, honestly. It sounds like a Corolla. Like you're in like a base Toyota Corolla that has like nothing. So adding a subwoofer might be the thing to kind of fix it a little bit, but honestly, probably going back and changing everything. If you're into music and wanting like a nice crisp sound, that's honestly the only way to do it.
Yep.
All right, so any last remarks before we move on to the next Bronco?
We did forget the wheels. These are the stock Sasquatch wheels, just added the Ford Performance rock rings. These are off of Raptor, so they will bolt. I know a lot of people are looking for the Bronco specific ones. They are back ordered for months. Raptor ones will fit. These are from a 2nd gen.
Oh, there you go. See, that's something we didn't really know, and a lot of people don't. Yep. If you want to get some rings and you can't get the actual Bronco ones,
go on the Ford Performance. Actually, Gen 1, 2, or 3, they all fit. They're the same bolt pattern, same everything. We put them side by side, and they will work. They just look different, which is fine.
Engine, you're happy with the engine, training, all that?
7's got great power, you know.
Yeah.
All the goat modes, you know, it really changes everything up pretty good.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the 2-door. I'll break down what I have, and then we'll compare both of them a little bit more when it comes to like what we've seen out on the trail. Obviously his wheelbase is a little bit bigger than mine. Pros and cons to both short wheelbase, long wheelbase, but yeah, we'll get into it. All right, team, so I'm gonna get down to breaking down my 2-door version of this build. All right, so we start off with the wheels and tires. I went KMCs. They are not bead locks. These are mock crawler wheels, but you know, they look nice. We use them. We make sure we put some scratches on them. They've held up really well. I've dropped down the PSI to 10. I did have Nittos before. Now I'm on the Geolander MT. Tires have been great. I haven't really tested them off-road, but they do, you know, they look tasty. They look tasty. The ones on the Gladiator did just fine. So now we're putting them on the Bronco. I do have a different setup when it comes to suspension. I went Radflows. I have the Radflow 2.5s, also external resi. My truck does sit a little bit higher. We will be fixing that. If you guys can see, excuse the wind noise, my steering goes a little bit too aggressive, so we're gonna make sure we drop it a little bit. Also, they do have internal bump stops. Obviously everything else is pretty similar. They did have an issue on the first setup that I did have, where one of the hoses was kind of giving me an issue. They did come out and replace it. They fixed everything up now, so we're gonna go back to testing and see what it does. I still don't have arms, which we will be fixing soon because they are needed for the extended length. So like I was saying, these are the extended version of the Radflows. You can get the OEM specific ones, which I had first, but now we went to the extended travel ones. I do have to replace arms to make sure that they meet up correctly, and then we'll start working on some of the other things. Again, we will be replacing that disconnect with Oscar's quick disconnect kit. Even though I do have the automatic disconnect, I think we could still benefit from extending it a little bit and then really testing it out. So suspension wise, tire wise, that's what I have. We'll move on to the body. All right, so if you guys have been following my build, I've gone through like 3 different versions of a front end, mostly because I work with partners with Weston Super Winch, but they've tried other versions of this bumper. They had an Outlaw one, and then we went with the winch setup for King of the Hammers, and then we went back to this one just because they're finishing on making sure that it's all dialed in, making sure it fits correctly, that it's strong enough, and pretty much all the above. But this is a Badlands version, not the base Sasquash. I did not get a Sasquash knowing that I was going to remove all the Sasquash stuff off anyways, but like Oscar said, Sasquashes should have all the skid plates the Badlands have. Just in my opinion, that's just, if you're gonna name it something that cool, you should have all the stuff that protects it. So but again, this is a Badlands. I do have did you have rock rails? You had rock rails too, right? No, see, he didn't have sliders. The Badlands does. The rear obviously is the same as Oscar's. We do have the arms from Rock Jock. The one huge difference from my rear end to Oscar's is I do have the Super Springs sumo stops, so you can see it right there. But again, external resi rears, 2.5s. And then I do have the Weston bumper. This is their final product. They'll be releasing it soon. And again, we talked about the tailgate on his. Everything is pretty much similar there. Nothing changes. Reinforce it. I would say just delete it. Leave your tire somewhere. Unless you're traveling somewhere and you know you're not going to wheel that hard, you can wear it and put it back on, because it does look kind of goofy like this. But I just don't want any more damage, so I left it that way. One big thing that we didn't talk about is Oscar's interior is whack. It looks like a Corolla on the inside. These seats right here, these are booty hole seats. He didn't want to admit it.
Okay, they don't look bad, but they're not comfortable though.
Yeah, they're not comfortable.
They are getting swapped out.
they look pretty bad. So
they're so uncomfortable, I'm gonna swap them out.
yeah, the difference between that, I mean, you are paying for it. It's not like it was free, but the Badlands seats are amazing. The bolstering is good. They are like this, like, I don't know what it is, plastic, leather, whatever you want to call it, but they do have nice bolstering. The rear, it's really nice also. The inside of the Broncos is really nice. Everything the way that it's set up, I think it works correctly. I do wish they had something up here to grab also, but they do have the ones out here next to this side. Again, sound system is also one of the big red flags for me. It sounds like shit in here, and I really wish we can address that without it being so expensive, because even with the, you know, upgraded system, it's still pretty bad. Other than that, I mean, the Bronco 2-door, again, wheelbase is a lot different than the 4-door, so we'll dive into that shortly. Another thing that I do have that Oscar's is different, so he has the rag top, I have the hard shell, but we did work with Best Tops and they gave me this half top for SEMA, and we've been using it ever since, and it's amazing because it's really easy. It's very similar to, like, if you've ever driven a Miata, these really just pop in and out really easy, and it looks really nice. It's simple, it's clean, it doesn't get in the way. It's one push in, one push out, and it's all perfect. So it's not automatic, so it's not electronic, nothing like that. You have to use your hands to do it, and then it locks in place just like the regular soft top. But yeah, it's amazing. It has came loose a couple times, so I would Loctite all the hardware that goes in this section right here. But other than that, the Best top, it works amazing. Now that you've seen like what our builds have, the comparison between each other, now we're going to talk about like how he feels about the 2-door watching me wheel it, what the pros and cons are, get his opinion, and then I'll give you my opinion. These are just things that we've seen because we actually wheel them, and yeah, we're going to go through it. So Oscar, pros and cons, 4-door versus 2-door.
All right, so first, start pros on both when it comes to off-roading. So obviously longer wheelbase, fast stuff. My Bronco seems to sit better, and this is before the Kings. Like when I had it on the stock Bilsteins, it just sat better. It didn't buck as much. The 2-door, and I'm seeing George in front of me, it bucks quite a bit. That's mainly because of the wheelbase. Yeah. Crawling, the hard, steep climbs, the 2-door, the 4-door does a lot easier. Yeah. And once again, that's because of the wheelbase. George basically is trying to climb front tire and back tire at the same time, while on the 4-door, the top's already at the top, back's climbing. It's just a wheelbase thing. Cutaway though on this one does kind of suck. At the top, I tend to scrape a lot. If you look at the bottom of my truck, it's damaged. It looks like it's 20 years old in comparison to the 2-door. At the top, it just goes over easily, no problem. I don't know, man. The 2-door looks nice. It sticks more to the original Bronco name, I guess. As it's always been since the 66, 2-doors have always been good. But obviously now with the way wheeling is and everything, I believe the 4-door is more equipped for it just because of the wheelbase. So we'll go back to like what he's talking about. So I definitely agree. From wheeling a JT and having that longer wheelbase, I think if you're gonna really wheel hard, I wouldn't buy a 2-door unless you're like really experienced and really know how like to manage it, because honestly, even with the experience that I've had, wheeling a 2-door is scary, man. It gets tippy there. You have to have control, you have to commit, you have to have, I mean, I'm sure you guys can pull up plenty of videos online where you should see, you know, Broncos rolling or whatnot. With IFS and short wheelbase, it gets scary. So the bucking, all of that, it's 100% real. You have to have really good managing skills and really like answer the question fast. That's kind of how I look at it when I'm wheeling. Is if you get into a sticky situation, are you gonna either hit the brakes or go, you know, like, and a lot of those minor details, you'll roll a truck. Where a 4-door is a little bit more forgiving, and even more so a Gladiator. It has a bigger wheelbase, way more forgiving on climbs, way more stable, I guess you can say. But again, once you're going up and over certain things, you're gonna turtle in certain situations where like a 2-door won't. But if you are inexperienced and you want to get into it, I would go with the 4-door versus buying a 2-door, even though it does look, like he said, really nice in the 2-door. When it comes to wheeling and going fast and all of that, I do think that the 4-door is a lot more favored than the 2-door, but I still look better than you do. And however, these two do have the same drivetrain, engine, tranny. This thing has way more pickup. I mean, obviously smaller car, more, you know, less weight. Yeah, it just moves. Like, oh, and one thing that I didn't break down is we're going to the engine, some of the modifications we've done there, because we haven't broken that down. So let's break that down before we continue this video. All right, so we're gonna go into the engine bay. I'll go with mine first. Again, we do have flag mounts also, but K&N did the system on mine. They actually tested it on here. They built it off my platform, and then they, you know, I think they're going live with it now, but it is the intake. They changed all the weird piping here, flex pipe, all that situation that they had, and it goes down all the way to the turbo. And then they also did the cold pipe up here. So this piece is really nice. It's aluminum, powder coated, covered and everything. And then obviously this is gonna have two different setups. It does have this boxy removable top. They are making a snorkel out of it. Shout out to K&N.
I've been working with them with the Gladiator and with this truck, and it looks really nice. So Oscar will probably have this set up pretty soon.
They're still changing this, right?
Yes, they're working on this top pipe right now, but this pipe is really expensive because it goes from the other turbo all the way across, and then it splits in the Y here. So they're trying to make this in aluminum. I'm sure that pipe, I mean, not easy to make and get it passed. As you guys know, K&N makes a lot of carb legal parts, and California is kind of evil when it comes to that. But yeah, if you're looking for some turbo noises, a little bit more freed up power, K&N is going to be releasing these two pieces, and get yours today. And then if you are looking for a snorkel, they will be building one soon. But we live in California, don't be goofy.
You don't need a snorkel.
That's right. It looks cool, but
no, it doesn't.
But you don't need it.
No, it doesn't.
So now we're going to talk about what Oscar has. He does have something on his motor that I don't. He's also done his exhaust, so we'll talk about that here. All right, Oscar, talk about your engine bay.
All right, so my motor's pretty much stock except for the blow-off valve from TurboSmart. It's amazing. It sounds cool.
It does sound good. So I'll eventually go TurboSmart blow-off valve too, because it does help circulate the air a little bit better. And again, this is what the stock box looks like. And these are the hoses we were talking about. Yeah, these flex.
They're just restrictive.
Yeah, they're just restrictive. They're really weird. And K&N cleaned that up, and then that's what the stock pipe looks like. Yep. But he also did a couple things to his, because it is a base Sasquash. He had to get the reroute for.
I don't have auxiliary switches, so I added one of these boxes. Honestly, I bought mine from Amazon. It's like $110, but it's the best thing I could have got. I got 6 switches inside. The Broncos come pre-wired for aux switches, something I found out. If you didn't get the aux switches, the wires are still here, which is why I mounted this box here. So the wire going to the roof, to the back, to the ditch lights, they're still here. I just pretty much plugged them in there, and it just has full-on power now. I also put my winch cylinder pack in here. It is wireless, and I wanted it tucked in as we showed you earlier. So
yeah.
So
that's really the only way to really do it, to like have it really nice. Yep. You have to have a removable box with the remote and everything. So his is wireless. Super Winch does make a kit also. If you don't have a wireless winch from them, they can make you a wireless setup. So he rerouted everything to the top, and that keeps it nice and clean in here. Everything's easy accessible, everything worked. That's a stock engine versus, you know, intake or whatever, but we'll have the similar setups, I'm sure, accordingly. And then what you do to your exhaust?
Oh, we added a MagnaFlow 40 series, I want to say it was. No, 80 series. We did a 40, it sounded horrible. Did an 80, still doesn't sound good, but it's better. We wanted to get better airflow, so just wanted an 80 series muffler, pretty much.
And that's something that these V6s are known for, is a good sound. They just kind of don't sound good. He tried to help it out, and it kind of did at first, but right now his exhaust is crushed, so we're not going to show you what that sounds like. If you ever want to hear it, just send him a DM. He'll send you sound clips of what the regular exhaust sounds like. I'm sure turboback exhaust and all that's coming out soon. A lot of companies usually work on stuff as the platforms get older, but that's the breakdown for both our rigs. We're gonna get some final thoughts gathered here, and then we'll get back with you. All right, so we're gonna get Oscar's final remarks, and then I'll give you mine, and then we'll close it out. Oscar, final remarks, though.
So we've between everything we've had, we've owned so many Broncos. So when the Bronco first came out, that it wasn't going to be either, you know, like a TTB or solid axle setup, I was kind of disappointed. But honestly, this thing's impressive. This is my second IFS vehicle. 4Runners I've had before, which they're great vehicles, but this thing is just a way different car. Like it's engineered right. I know there's a lot of people talking about the solid axle, so that always comes up, that the IFS sucks, that the steering breaks. No, it doesn't. It's really impressive. You really got to drive one to kind of know to get that feeling. But the power to the ratio it has, the power ratio to the car, everything's just, it's damn impressive. You know, I bought it originally because it's a Bronco fan. I wanted just to have a Bronco in my fleet, but this thing's really impressive. I mean, that's pretty much my final remark to it. You got to drive one. That's it.
All right, so that was Oscar's final remarks. For me, a lot of it is the same. Very impressive platforms. I've never really, you know, he's wheeled a lot more years than I have. You know, I've been in the game for maybe 4 or 5 years. Wheeled a few trucks. This is my first IFS truck. Also went from the XJ. Also have the Gladiator. I get that question. Jeep, Bronco, Gladiator, Bronco, like what do you choose all the time? It's really not the same. If you want to do fast boy stuff with a good balance of rock crawling, I think the Bronco outperforms the Jeep. But if you're looking for strictly crawling, more space, a little bit more of the premiums for the price, I would say a lot of the, you know, Jeeps have been around for a very long time, have gotten a lot of things right. They are kind of lazy. A lot of re-gearing goes into factor when it comes to a straight axle and big tires and all that shenanigans, where the Bronco just feels good. I've had 35s on it, I've had 37s, and it still feels like it has tons of power. But again, this isn't a Jeep versus Gladiator thing. This is a two-door versus Bronco comparison. So we'll wrap it up here. Shout out to everybody for sticking around. If you guys have any questions for me, have any questions for Oscar, I'll put his name here. And then yeah, hit him up, have him, you know, build you some stuff if you do have a Bronco. And then he does also fab custom stuff. If you ever need to reach out to him, hit him up. He is based out of LA, but he will travel if it's worth it. Shout out to you guys again. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Patreon, Instagram, Facebook is coming, and then obviously YouTube. Appreciate you guys. See you next time.